Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome back to the southern wing of the Stink Bug Works. I just got done watching Big B's video, and the repair that Big B did on his aardvark steering was only about this much shy of absolutely brilliant. I mean, what he did should have been mandatory. It should have come from the factory that way. What they did with gluing that cable housing, the sheath, the outer tube that holds, in his case, the pull cable, because you can't push with a cable. It does that when you push. You can only pull. If I were TFL, I would have made that piece, but the little tube that Big B put in there, I would have made that tube, 3/4 of an inch long and angled it to line up with the dummy hydraulic and put a longer cable in there with more bends. So I blame that on TFL, and what Big B did, I wholeheartedly approve and think every one of those aardvark drives should have the Big B mod. I mean, TFL, come on, you're supposed to be better than that. I've seen your stuff. You should be better than that. Couple of things. If you remember, I had some ceramic bearings that I ran in this aluminum tube trying to build the shaft extension on the Miss Bud. And so I showed you yesterday the bearings I had in there, and they were kind of gray looking. And I had a bearing that had never been run, and then all the rest of them were kind of gray looking because, quite frankly, they were spinning inside of this housing. So I decided to think and see now, it's pretty hard to tell. Well, there's the one that hasn't run. So you can see they've cleaned up a little bit. Well, what did I do? How did I clean that up? Now remember, these are ceramic. What do they make out of ceramic? Plates, coffee cups, chemical beakers. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is ceramic. I have microscopic metal shavings on the outside of my ceramic bearing, making my ceramic bearing appear less than pristine. I mean, it works just fine. So I did some experimenting, and here's what I did, boys and girls. I took soldering fluid. This is just acid. That's all it is. It's very mild acid. And I said, well, let's see how they do in an acid bath. And I dumped the bearings in an acid bath, and lo and behold, they came out much cleaner. Not perfect, but much cleaner. If I really wanted to get down on it, I'd put them in a jar of vinegar for a month. There'd be nothing left. Ooh, I wonder if I could put them in a can of Coca-Cola. You've heard stories where Coca-Cola dissolves meat or whatever you put in it. Or I've heard cleaning toilet bowls with Coca-Cola. Toilet bowls are ceramic, so there you go. Well, I spent a lot of time yesterday drawing and erasing, and you can see where I spilled here and I sprayed there, but I'm getting close to a design. I ordered some carbon fiber square tube to make this bracket part. And retaining the bearings was always an issue. How am I going to retain the bearings? You know, I was thinking about just gluing them in place and calling it good, but I have a better idea now. I'm going to make a bracket like this. I'm going to take a piece of square tubing and I'm going to cut one side to a shape like that, you know, and the same thing on the other side. I'm going to drill a 1/4-inch hole right there for my bearing. And now, how do I keep the bearing in place? Well, on the bottom side, now the pivot shaft's going to be a 1/8-inch carbon fiber rod. So on the bottom side, I'm going to glue a piece over here that'll have a 1/16-inch hole, or maybe a little larger, but less than 1/8, right in the center here. And then on the top side, I'll do the same thing, except it will have a 1/8-inch hole so that I can push the pin in there and it won't come out this 16th hole here. But I could take a drift or a punch and push that pin out this way. So now I have the bracket with the pin and it's holding the bearings. The bearings will go up against this piece, but what keeps the bearings from falling inward will just be the piece that's rotating on here. I'll make it wide enough and I can shim it with some washers that will keep the bearings in place. So once the pin is removed, everything comes out, the bearings, everything, you can get at it all. Now, how am I going to keep that pin in there? And originally I thought about in this bracket here that holds everything, about drilling and tapping a set screw that would go against the carbon fiber rod. And as I thought about that, a set screw against a carbon fiber rod isn't a very good idea. So let's go back to the dummy motor itself. I was going to make a carbon fiber outline of the motor and then glue foam to that and sand it to shape. And then this carbon fiber thing would give me a good, you know, overall shape. And then I'd fiberglass the foam and sand it and make it all super bitchin'. I can take this carbon fiber frame, which doesn't move relative to the pivot point. It's always right over the pivot point, and just have a little flat spot on it. This tab will go into this slot here, but just have a little flat spot that'll hold the pin from coming out. Bingo. One screw will hold the whole thing in place. So one screw, the motor cover comes off, the dummy motor. I can push the pin for the pivot and it all comes apart. Boom, just like that quick. I'm going to have to come up with some consideration for how I access the mounting hole and how I access the height adjustment. I may just do the height adjustment with the top off. So pull the top off, adjust the height, put the top back on. And that way I don't have to cut any holes or any relief here. So it's coming. See, I'm thinking about the bearing and the washers here and so forth. So I'm having great hopes for this. It might be fun. I think that'll make this boat, is to have a nice steerable outboard. That first thing I was looking at, it would work, but it just wouldn't look cool. So I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time and effort just to look cool. This may not be enough motor to make it go really fast, but at least I can look cool. So there you go, boys and girls. Just an update on my thinking. The rescue boat now has its own dedicated radio. That was one of the reasons I didn't take it with me, because I've programmed a lot of my new boats onto the rescue boat transmitter, and I don't like sharing a transmitter between the rescue boat and the victim, because as you're driving the rescue boat, the victim is going, what do I do? What do I do? So the rescue boat now has its own dedicated transmitter, and it will be going out with me far more often than not. Until next time, boys and girls, jet out.